Hello everyone, Josh Leatherwood here, Marketing and Digital Media Manager for Streetside Classics. I'm sure you've heard that name before, but if you haven't, Streetside Classics, we're the nation's #1 consignment dealer of classic and specialty vehicles. We have 6 locations around America, 1,500 cars online at all times usually for sale. So if it's cool, we'll sell it for you, or we'll sell it to you, or we can sell it for you while we're selling another one to you. Anyway, today we're at our Charlotte location. I wanted to show you guys a couple of really cool cars we have back here. A couple nice Camaros. These are from the same consigner, and obviously he has great taste in cars. Now some of you are probably saying, I've seen these cars on social media because they're out there. They're on YouTube quite a bit. And this one, the red car, 67 Camaro, has actually been featured on Autotopia. But I think this is an excellent example of what you can do with these cars as far as building a classic in a kind of modern way. And they're 2 distinctly flavored cars, and we'll get into that more in a minute. But it's not really the traditional stuff you're used to seeing with a 67 Camaro or a 71 Camaro. And that makes it really unique, really special. So this is what's called the Mill 1 Camaro, and it's called that because it has quite a story behind it. The owner of the car, he is a real estate investor, and he purchased a historic mill in Mooresville, North Carolina, Race City, USA. And that mill was kind of the backbone of the town originally. And they pretty much planned the new developments because the mill could not be saved that would serve as kind of the new backbone of the town as far as inspiring investment in the town. And I tell you that because this car was built as a kind of tribute to that. And I think it's great because, back in the mill days, the people who built the town back then, they were craftsmen and they made things with their hands and they really appreciated craftsmanship. And that's the same thing with this car. It's very crafted, very cool car. 80 to 90% of the components were sourced from Race City, from the Mooresville area. 100% of the build was completed in the Mooresville area. So this car was built by a place called Forge Speed. I've known the guys that work there for a long time. They do really good stuff, lots of really high dollar, high quality stuff in the hobby. And this is, kind of the top end of what you would expect if you're going to take a classic car and build it to, to a really show level. Lots of cool details. We'll start with the paint. This is actually a tri-stage paint. The first coat was black. The second coat was a color called Pagan Gold. And the third coat is custom tinted Kia Stinger Red. And it really comes off, it's kind of overcast today, which gives it more of a red hue. But in the sunlight, it's really kind of an orange. The gold really comes through the red. The stripes are carbon flash. That's a factory Chevrolet color. One of the greatest colors Chevrolet's ever created, in my opinion. Most recently, it was featured on the 70th anniversary edition of the Corvette. Diving deeper into the car itself, a lot of little custom touches. We got a custom billet grille up front that was made by Forge Speed. Vision X LED headlights. And that it gives it this rally look. A lot of old timers talk about the SCCA rally look where the cars would run around, the first gen Camaros would run around without the bumpers. Kind of maximizes that effect, this car does. Very interesting that they chose to stay with a flat hood. So many of these builds, they have cowl induction hoods. But the flat hood plays really well on this car. That flows into flush fit glass. You'll see that on a lot of high-end builds. This is a neat detail right here, drip rail. So technically the drip rail's been shaved, but a little bit of it has been sculpted into the roof. Down further on the door, you have Ring Brothers mirrors, billet mirrors, and really subtle Eddie Motorsports door handles that have this little indentation here. One cool thing you'll see on a lot of higher end builds is filled seams. So back here, this filler panel right here, you don't see any seam. And from the factory, there would have been seams right down through there. Same thing with the front quarter pieces, no seams up there, filled seams. This deck lid is a custom piece that was created, cut by Forge Speed, and the stripes duplicate a build that Ring Brothers did a while back. Ring Brothers, if you follow the hobby, they do some really premium stuff, really nice stuff. And the owner just thought it was a nice touch on their car, decided to duplicate it on this car. And then out back, we have custom taillights. Now these are Fessler billet housings, but the owner of the car was really a big fan of Black Cloud Battalion's Vengeance Camaro. And they have a thing called Infinity tail lamps on that car. And that's exactly what he had them build for this car. Vengeance Infinity tail lamps. They look really cool. So taking a look under the hood, you have a lot of stuff that's characteristic of high-end builds. Everything's been smoothed, everything's body matched. And a nice little closeout panel here that simplifies things. And of course, the star of the show, 7 liters of LS7 V8. Of course, those of you who know cars know that that is the power plant that was made famous by the Corvette Z06 and the Camaro Z28. This one was built by Prestige Motorsports, another local company in Kannapolis, North Carolina. And it was dyno tuned to 618 horsepower and 451 pound-feet of torque. Lots of great components in this engine bay and on the engine. Mass 285 heads, CVF serpentine drive, a big aluminum radiator with a Spall puller fan, American Racing headers. Everything is just really top notch, even down to the hardware on the fenders and the Eddie Motorsports hood supports. So one really cool thing about these cars is, even though they're modernized, they're still muscle cars. You know, I see so many of these cars in the hobby that, you know, they add things. They want to be kind of like supercars. I feel like that's kind of the Instagram-able thing these days, supercars. But these are honest muscle cars that have been upgraded the right way. Everything from this car's naturally aspirated V8 that's a beast to the, you know, understated but really cool and custom interior. By the way, is by Chuck Hanna. He's very big in the hot rod world. He's right here in Lake Norman. 4 bucket seats with a full-length console. The front seats are leather and Alcantara wrapped 2012 Camaro buckets that have been cut down a little bit, shortened, you know, so they fit in the car. You have a Momo steering wheel on a tilt column. And the gauges, interesting thing, the gauge pod and the classic Instruments Mole Bomber gauges were really installed that way to duplicate the look of a old warbird. And what I mean by that is a World War II bomber or fighter plane, because the owner of the car is a big flying enthusiast, big fan of warbirds. Other details, vintage air climate control, of course, modern audio that includes an amplifier and a subwoofer that's in the trunk, which is upholstered to match. And interestingly, a full hidden radar system that has rear radar, front radar, and roof radar for planes, and includes 2 4K cameras out the front and the back. So this is where these two builds really start to differ. You know, this car is a full Detroit Speed setup. Detroit Speed, a Mooresville company. Been here for a while. Top of the game in suspension stuff. Word is that the suspension on this car was roughly $55,000 with all components and I'm sure labor and installation. But that's one thing about the Detroit Speed systems. You know, like this is a hydroformed front subframe and a quad-link rear kit. Pretty much replaces everything in the car, and you have to fabricate it. So you're going to need somebody to weld it up, you know, get all the geometry right. It's probably going to be something you're going to have a professional shop do. So on the outside of that suspension, big Wilwood brakes on all 4 corners. On the outside of those Wilwood brakes, you have custom Forgeline DE3S wheels. They have matte centers and gloss hoops. Really nice wheels, 19 inches, 305 in the back. So naturally Detroit Speed mini tubs back there to match the suspension. And everything goes to the ground through a billet flywheel and a Tremec T56 Magnum 6-speed. The owner of the car, I think at one time had a Viper. He really loved the T56. Really proven unit. You know, they're tough and they, you know, last forever. And in the back, quintessential Ford 9-inch axle. Now that we went through the 67, I'll show you another awesome build. 71 Camaro here. So this car was bought by the owner as more of a cruiser, just a solid driver, and he took it into the shop. That shop would be Retro Designs over in Harrisburg, North Carolina, very close to Charlotte once again. And he was going to have some stuff done to it, and it eventually ended up being a 1-year build. They just kept adding and adding, and the result is, as you can see, fantastic. This is an original cottonwood green car, so it was this color in 71, except obviously this is a modern take, you know, base clear with a lot of pearl or metallic in it. Not as much metal work, but cool stuff nonetheless. It's nice to see a full bumper car. You know, everybody is pretty crazy about the rally sports, but the full bumper cars are awesome too. The cowl induction hood, a nice touch. As everybody who knows second generation Camaros knows, those weren't made from the factory. All cowl induction hoods on second gens, well, this era of second gen, early second gens, are aftermarket. It's the hood that GM forgot to make, is what a lot of people call it. This blacked out trim, this would have been chrome originally, or stainless actually, as part of the Z21 style group that this car has. But the blacked out trim is kind of coming to prominence now in restorations, and you see it a lot on later Trans Ams from the factory. Factory sport mirrors. Got the low-rise spoiler back here, which is unique to 71 in that, as of 72, all of these cars came with tall deck lid spoilers. And then the style group taillights, of course, which are most commonly known on the rally sport cars. And what I mean by that is you have the nice little stainless trim rings on the insides of the lights. Overall, very nice build. The big differences between these cars are just kind of star power in a lot of ways. The second gens are really coming up. They've always kind of had a niche following in the market. But the first gens, especially after the fifth gen debuted the retro styling, the first gens have always been the big money cars and the cars that people wanted. You know, and it's really cool because they are kind of the quintessential perfect muscle car, you know, or pony car, I guess, because it's just the lines are so pure on the first gen. But the second gen is definitely the better driver's car from the factory. Of course, both of these drive excellent because they have a lot of modern components under them. So under the hood of this 71, we have more awesome LS power. I believe this motor started as an LS truck engine, but it has been hotted up with a better cam, an LS3 intake, and LS3 823 heads. A lot of great components on this build as well. Stainless headers, Edelbrock water pump, Bill Specialties True Track serpentine drive, Wheelwood Hydro Boost brake system, PSC power steering, aluminum radiator with dual Spall puller fans. And the interesting thing about this car versus the red car is, you know, the Detroit Speed stuff comes with power rack and pinion steering. This is a traditional setup, but it feels, you know, both feel really good. But as far as aesthetically, this is much more of a factory engine bay, you know, nice satin black, just very subdued, with the addition of these little billet brace bars, which are a nice touch. As you can see, a really nice cockpit in this 71 Camaro as well. That was done by the guys over at Retro Design. And there's actually a story behind this. It's kind of a interesting color combination on the interior, but it plays really well with the green and black, and especially well with the wheels that were custom color matched to, I think actually maybe the wheel color was chosen first. The interior was color matched to it. Either way, really cool look, something really different than your traditional black interior, you know. First of all, full-length console with accent lighting, 4 buckets. The front buckets are Shield man seats. Don't roast me in the comments if I said that wrong, because sports car guys, I'm a hot rodder, not a sports car guy. So, Momo race wheel on a tilt column, Dakota Digital HDX telemetry, very traditional looking, very clean, but still, you know, has some digital components. The horseshoe shifter is a nice touch, and it's actually been made more prominent in this car. The owner and builder of the car, he has kind of a sentimental attachment to the old horseshoe shifters of muscle cars. Yet another example of incorporating classic elements into a really nice modernized build. Other than that, just a really nice build. Vintage air climate control, of course, and the trunk, like the 67, is upholstered to match the interior. Moving under the car, you know, I mentioned the custom Forge Line wheels. By the way, they're customized Forge Line AL306s. These are 18s, and I believe they are 245s on the back, maybe 265s. So not quite as big as on the 67. But this suspension, this is interesting because everything on this suspension is bolt-on. So this is a Hotchkiss total vehicle system setup. And, you know, Hotchkiss, you know, John prides himself, also another Mooresville company, by the way. He prides himself in making suspension kits for people that they can do in their garages. So this is something you could technically bolt up in a couple of weekends. The total vehicle system includes sway bars, all your arms, all your springs, all your shocks, all your hardware. Although on this car, I do believe the front shocks have been switched out and springs have been switched out for a nice set of coilovers. Overall, though, both cars ride and drive very, very good. And this is much cheaper than something you're going to have to take to a shop and fabricate when it comes to putting something like that together, with roughly the same performance if you're not going to go rally the car or if you're not looking to resell, you know, something like that. As far as brakes, drilled and slotted rotors, wheel woods all around, 4 and 6 pistons, 6 pistons up front naturally, 4L80E 4-speed automatic transmission, and the axle is a traditional Camaro 10 bolt. So you can find us, Streetside Classics, either one of our 6 showrooms, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, Tampa, Phoenix, or Dallas-Fort Worth. Find us on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, YouTube, or of course our website, www.streetsideclassics.com. We have a lot of cool cars just like this, and your job is to let us know which one of these you like in the comments. Thanks.